Members for being here. We have an expanded committee. Generally, there are 3 of us, but since this is going to deal exclusively with redistricting, we've expanded the committee by the addition of Mr. Englander and Mr. Joe Buscaino, and I'm joined by them, Mr. Labange and Mr. Weezar. With that said, we can get started. I would like to request that our leadership of the Redistricting Commission please come forward and have a seat at the table. If we could get the CLA to read the item.
Through me, Mr. Chair. This item is a communication from the LA City Council Redistricting Commission relative to their final report and recommendations on redistricting.
Thank you, Mr. CLA. I want to make a clarifying statement here. This meeting will deal specifically with the City Council redistricting. When we finish going through our series of hearings, then we will begin the hearings where it relates to the school district. So there will be no school district discussions at this point. Mr. Vargas, Ms. DuPont Walker, Ms. Cadota, Mr. Cadota, I want to thank you all for coming. Before you give your report to us, I think it was a few weeks ago I had an opportunity to address you at West Angeles Church that's in the district that I represent. I want to go on record here in the council chambers thanking you for all of the work that you've done, the dozens of meetings that you've held throughout this entire city, hours and hours upon hours spent with no compensation at all. Hopefully, they at least gave you a few free sandwiches. Water, okay.
Water.
I appreciate it. It's a very tough job, and you can't please everyone, and I personally think that you were very courageous. Mr. Cadota, even though you and my commissioner didn't agree on a lot of things, I just have to say that you have been a class act, and I think that you have handled yourself very professional and that you were an asset to this commission. And I think that your level, or I know my level of respect for you is very high. Ms. DuPont Walker, I've known you for many, many years. You've always been the first to volunteer. You and Mr. Vargas have done this before, which makes me kind of question your sanity, both of you. But again, you brought your experience that you brought to this process, understanding how to move things forward, I think was an asset to us as the city of LA. And to you, Mr. Vargas, and I mean this with all sincerity, I think you took the commission to another level. You're respected not only in this city and state, but on a national level. So this city was very fortunate to have you as its chairman and as its leader, so I appreciate that. I know that you guys have been accused of a variety of things, and I want you to know that I can relate to that because I have been accused of everything other than setting the Chicago fire back in the early 1900s, so I can relate to what you're going through. So I know you're glad that it's almost over. So with that, and just let me say another thing. I want to thank your staff the staff that you guys put in place. I mean, they worked hard, spent a lot of hours, a lot of sleepless nights, and to Mr. Westall, I commend you. You were the right person for this job. You have drawn assembly lines, LAUSD lines. Last time you did the council lines. I can't think of a more experienced person to do this than you. So with that said, Mr. Vargas, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Council President Wesson. On behalf of the 21 members of the Commission, we're pleased to deliver this report. It reflects our work that we conducted among 21 of us, 3 appointed by the Mayor, 2 by the then Council President Eric Garcetti, 1 each by the City Attorney and the City Controller, and then the remaining 14 members of the Council appointed 1. We first met on September 9th. At that meeting, we received information regarding rules and procedures, including the Brown Act, Robert's Rules of Order, and we reviewed various legal issues concerning redistricting. At our second meeting, I was elected chairman, and at the following meeting on October 12th, Ms. DuPont Walker and Mr. Cadota were elected vice chairs. The Commission also established 3 ad hoc committees to work with the staff on certain tasks. These ad hoc committees were outreach, communities of interest, and data. The Commission appointed an executive director and other staff to assist the Commission in the execution of our charge. At our November 9th meeting, the Commission selected a recognized redistricting expert, Andrew Westall, as executive director. He began his service on November 21. I would like to emphasize here that even though we first met in September, our staff was not in place until November 21st, and that really shortened our time available to do this work, and we did, I think, yeoman's work in a very abbreviated time period. In the ensuing weeks, Mr. Westall hired Ms. Miriam Lopez as the Commission's executive assistant, Ronnie Woods as the outreach director, and outreach staff consisting of Lawrence Joe, Rashad Rucker-Trapp, Paulina Velasco, and Stephen Wood. Our media director was Daniela Masterson. We also hired Nicole Boyle as our technical director. The Commission organized its early efforts around developing a baseline understanding of 3 foundational elements stemming directly from Charter Section 204, communities of interest, data, technical issues, and public participation. It therefore established 3 working ad hoc committees to examine issues related to these substantive areas. Working with the Commission's ad hoc committee on outreach, staff developed an extensive and ambitious outreach program that centered on holding 22 public hearings expressly for the purpose of gaining community input on how new districts should be designed and constituted. The various elements and results of the Commission's unprecedented outreach program will be more fully detailed by Vice Chair DuPont Walker. The Commission knew from the beginning that a crucial element of its work would be to gain a comprehensive understanding of how Angelenos identify and define their communities, how neighborhood councils, which came to fruition since the last redistricting, correlate to the residents' understanding of their own communities. This will be more fully detailed by Vice Chair Cadota. The Ad Hoc Committee on Communities of Interest reviewed numerous criteria and indicia of what constitutes a community and considered various types of geographic and socioeconomic information that will be crucial in helping the Commission making its recommendations. The Ad Hoc Committee on Data took a similar approach regarding data elements that should be considered by the Commission and its staff in designing the new districts. The data elements described herein relied on designing the recommended plan and are the direct result of the Ad Hoc Committees on Communities of Interest and data work. From the outset, as a methodological approach to conducting our work, the Commission and its staff contemplated a multi-phase process involving significant public participation. The first phase of the Commission's work was the 15 public testimony hearings throughout the city of LA held between December 2011 and January 2012. We held a hearing in every single council district. The second phase was for the Commission to tour the city of Los Angeles on January 14th to better get an understanding of where current council districts are divided in communities throughout the city. So we literally got on vans and we toured the current lines that divided areas of downtown, Palms, Baldwin Hills, Lemire Park, Koreatown, Pacoima, Lakeview Terrace, Sun Valley, North Hollywood, Studio City, Valley Village, Sherman Oaks, Encino, Lake Balboa, and Reseda. The third phase was to work in ad hoc regional line drawing committees to develop an initial draft map. During the third phase, A fourth phase was completed on January 18th, in which the Commission solicited and received presentations from more than 25 organizations and individuals who presented public map submissions. The result of these 4 phases of work was the Commission's adoption on January 25th of a draft map for the proposed new council districts. The 5th phase of the Commission's work began with the release of the draft map. During February, the Commission conducted 7 regional public testimony hearings, averaging over 400 individuals in attendance, to gain public reaction and identify opportunities to make improvements toward a final map. After the second round of public testimony, the 6th phase was begun with each commissioner given an opportunity to make suggested adjustments to the draft map. On February 15th, the Commission debated and approved possible adjustments, where 42 out of 80 suggested adjustments were approved. And that was the hearing that we held in this chamber that I believe concluded at 2 o'clock in the morning. At the direction of the Commission, the technical director released an adjusted draft map for public comment on February 17th. The final phase of the process took place on February 22nd, where individual commissioners proposed 14 additional amendments to the adjusted draft map, 5 of which were approved. At the end of the meeting, the Commission voted 16-5 on the final map recommendation. And that is what we presented to you here today. And I would like to ask Vice Chair Tupang Walker to discuss more fully our outreach strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to members of the committee. It was indeed an honor to serve on this committee, particularly with Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Cadota. I think we made an outstanding team, bringing different perspectives from our different stakeholder positions, but having the city at large as our primary goal. Working with the Commission's ad hoc committee on outreach, staff developed an extensive and ambitious outreach program that centered on holding 22 public hearings, especially for the purpose of gaining community input on how new districts should be designed and constituted. These are the various elements and results of the Commission's unprecedented outreach program. The Commission's very public and open process included extensive community outreach and participation, and the review by the Commission and/or its staff of various redistricting plans, options, adjustments, and maps submitted by commissioners, interested organizations, and individuals. The outreach program was managed by our outstanding outreach director with leadership from a number of key staff, including 5 outreach specialists and a media director, collectively called the outreach team. On average, the outreach team logged 80 hours weekly, including weekends for public hearings and community events held throughout this great city. The guiding document for enhanced public participation was the 20 key areas of outreach. This document was utilized to more effectively target key communities for turnout by the outreach team, community partners, and council staff. The majority of the participation came from members of the public with ties to community-based organizations which were either issue-based, partisan, political, racial, ethnic, faith-based, and often had existing relationships with sitting council members. The Commission developed community of interest tools such as public comment forms, as well as provided mapping software to the public, an electronic newsletter, an online survey, a website, and public service announcements. The Commission provided most materials in 9 key languages: English, Spanish, Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Chinese, Armenian, and Thai, as well as provided Google Translator for the websites to be translated into dozens of languages. Interpreters were provided at every public hearing and most business meetings with multiple languages: Spanish, Korean, Tagalog, Chinese, Japanese, and Armenian.
Ms. DuPont Walker, Councilmember Buscaino is questioning why there was not translation in Italian.
Next time.
Commissioner Cadota says next time, Joey B.
Duly noted.
Go on.
As part of its expansive public outreach effort, the Commission also held 22 public testimony hearings across the city to receive public comment concerning redistricting. All 22 hearings were captured on LA City View Channel 35 and played shortly thereafter, being taped and the staff stayed with us for every minute of the time that we had those long hours. Prior to the release of the draft map, the Commission held 15 public hearings in the first round. The hearings were held in each of the 15 districts to encourage diverse public engagement. During the 2-week period, more than 1,800 attended public hearings, with 500 providing verbal comment. On average, 122 community members were in attendance. The latter portion of public hearings began on February 1, 2012, following the release of the Commission's draft map. The 7 post-map hearings were set in each of 7 regions of the city: Central, Western, West Valley, East, Downtown, East Valley, and South. On average, 409 community members were in attendance. More than 5,000 people attended the Commission meetings and hearings, and more than 6,551 pieces of written and verbal testimony were received by council staff.
As a former chair of neighborhood councils, I have an opportunity to talk a little bit about their role in our work. The formation and certification of 95 neighborhood councils since the adoption of the Los Angeles City Charter in 1999 created a new opportunity and challenge for the Commission. During the 2001-2002 Commission's work, less than 30 neighborhood councils were formed and were not considered a community of interest at the time of recommending new council district boundaries. In 2011-12, that notion has changed dramatically. Throughout the process, the Commission received presentations from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, or DUN, and held discussions regarding the certification process of neighborhood councils. It must be noted that city councils vary widely in population, geographic boundaries, and demographics. As a result, a one-size-fits-all approach to evaluating their weight and defining communities of interest would be difficult to apply to the Commission's recommended plan throughout. During the first 15 public testimony hearings, the Commission received numerous public comments asking for neighborhood councils to be kept whole while drawing council districts. During that time, members of the public also submitted public map submissions attempting to keep all neighborhood councils whole in a single plan, with limited success and without apparent consideration of all other redistricting factors. While neighborhood councils are now an identifiable community of interest throughout the city, the Commission realized the challenge and difficulty of keeping every neighborhood council whole in the city. With that in mind, the Commission adopted a policy decision on February 15th to keep at least 2/3 of neighborhood councils whole and to minimize splits between council districts to the extent possible. Of the 95 certified councils, 53 are currently divided across multiple council districts, 40 split between 2 districts, and 13 split between 3 districts. The final map recommendation reduces the number of split neighborhood councils from 53 to 29. The number of neighborhood council splits between 2 districts is reduced from 40 to 26, and the number of neighborhood councils divided between 3 districts is reduced from 13 to 3. 3 communities that are currently split among 3 districts, Encino, Palms, and Lake Balboa, are now completely united within one single district under the recommended plan. The recommended plan identifies and preserves whole the following communities as identified by the City of Los Angeles Community Renaming Policy, or grandfathered in from previous policies and actions of the City Council: Historic Filipino Town, Koreatown, Little Armenia, Little Bangladesh, Little Ethiopia, Little Tokyo, Rose Hill, Sherman Oaks, and Thai Town.
Again, I want to thank all of you. I do not believe that there are any questions by the other members of this committee at this point in time. Again, I want to thank you for your work. And Joe, your Commissioner Gaines, I thought showed courage. He and you guys recognized that you have to start somewhere. So when he first recommended as you said, Chairman Vargas, the very, crude but beginning draft maps, that's where it all started. When you look at that and compare it to what you just described to us today, I think that you did a person's job. So with that said, thank you very much. I'm going to ask for the city staff to come forward, and as you're coming forward, we have public comment. I'm going to apologize in advance because I don't know if I can. Sheila Michelson, if you would come forward, and a Cindy Hinch to the podium to give your public comment. Good morning.
Good morning, Council President Wesson. My name is Sheila Mickelson. Good morning, City Council members, and also good morning, Commissioners. Hi, Jackie. How are you? I just want to also express my appreciation for the daunting task that you've had in attempting to draw the maps for Los Angeles City Council districts. As you said earlier, Council President Wesson, the Commission began initially, and they had to start somewhere in creating maps. And I'm here to speak on the inadvertent error that continues to take place in Westchester. With the maps, as we all know in the room, we have a section of Westchester that is under threat of their votes being diluted and also disenfranchisement, with the eastern section of Westchester from the 405 freeway redistricted over to CD8, in which they share no community of interest. There are no natural geographic boundaries. Their occupation in terms of their basic living, insofar as their community, their commerce, their participation in community lies with the city of Westchester. We are one community. We are not a piece of a community to be divided. We here call for you today to reconsider, as you're going through this process, in terms of approving the district maps, to right this wrong. You have the responsibility, the incredible responsibility of ensuring that each vote and each constituent in this district have equal weight. And I feel confident that will happen with the return of the eastern section of Westchester, return to CD11. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Next, please. Good morning.
Good morning. I too thank the Commission for your hours and the life that you gave up to do this effort. I'm glad it wasn't me. So thank you. My name is Cindy Hench. I'm the Neighborhood Council President for the Neighborhood Council of Westchester Playa. I've been watching and participating in this process from pretty early on because I was concerned about what might happen to Westchester. When the initial maps were released, our community came out in force with 700 plus people coming to a meeting to speak a united message, and that was to keep Westchester intact and in CD11. The reason for my concern and passion on this is because the easternmost part of Westchester is a triangle that is basically shares borders with the city of Inglewood, LA County, and CD11. It's currently aligned with CD8. The area shares concerns that are in common with the rest of Westchester Playa, not with CD8. The people that live in this triangle are miles and miles away from CD8. If you go drive this area and look at it, you'll be shocked that this is a connection for a district. The Neighborhood Council of Westchester Playa respectfully requests that you fix this oversight in the report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Let me ask a question of the CLA. Are we required to approve the commission's map?
No, you are not. The commission map is advisory.
There have been some suggestions that maybe we are moving maybe too quickly. Explain to me, if all goes according to the schedule that we put forth and we take our vote on this March 16th, what then happens, and what kind of time frame, who has to review it, and how long will it take to put that document together?
Certainly. Well, according to your current schedule, again, you're having the public hearings next week, and then I believe your proposal is that any proposed changes be submitted to my office by March 8th. What that means, in essence, is that my staff and my consultant, Dave Ely, will have, in essence, about 5 calendar days, including the weekend, to analyze the demographic impacts of those, and the city attorney then would have to review those in the context of the Voting Rights Act. And that gives us 1 day to finalize a report and forward it to you that is understandable. You can put the proposed changes in context so that you can consider those by the 16th. So I assure you that we're going to do everything possible to meet that schedule. Some of it will depend on the extent of the changes that are proposed, but assuming that everything goes according to schedule, if you act on the 16th and direct the city attorney to proceed to draft the ordinance, Bureau of Engineering is going to have to do the meets and bounds, which will take about 6 weeks. So you won't have a first reading ordinance before you until early May at that point.
Okay. What's important to me, whenever you go through a redistricting process, and this is my second time, one at the state and my first time here at the city, there are concerns where it relates to can this map be defensed in the event that somebody were to sue us. So I'd like the city attorney to respond to their initial review of the commission's work.
Thank you, Council President. Harith Trivedi from the City Attorney's Office. We have been reviewing the map and been working with the Commission throughout its process in providing legal advice as they put together the map, and we continue to review the map with the city's experts and other city staff based on the information contained in the record and the justifications presented in the Commission's report, as well as the inherent policy discretion that the Commission and ultimately the Council has in this area of the law. We believe the map is legally defensible. Analysis of any map is very fact-specific and can be impacted by information that's not available or adduced at this time. We will continue to review that information and review any adjustments you may have to the map. Of course, amended versions or alternate versions of this map may also be legally viable, and we'll work with you to advise on those factors as well.
Thank you. Members, any questions to the city staff? Mr. Lamonge?
I just think we have to have, the right research is done and reviewed by Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, you've been involved with this before. Mr. Wickham, I know, and I think that will help prepare us when we finally come to council. I just want to say thank you, as well as thank the commissioners and staff for their work earlier.
If I could add, there's one element of schedule that I neglected to mention in response to Mr. Wesson's questions. The county has asked that we have our boundaries to them by May 15th so they can begin drawing the precincts for the next election, and that takes them some time. So that's another element. While you're not bound to have everything final by May 15th, I do think it's important to try to do everything we can so that the county can draw those precincts so that for the next election there are no problems.
Mr. Weezer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the staff as well as the Commission for their hard work and their hours they put into this effort. It's a difficult process, not a pretty one, but at the same time, I saw the chairs of this the executive team, so to speak, of the Commission do a great job in keeping things in order, moving forward, and putting in those long hours. So I want to just thank the staff along with the commissioners for their work. One of the public speakers mentioned that this was your other job, or they inferred that. So we know you have other jobs, and for you to put the time into this is really commendable. So thank you for your work.
Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to also echo my colleagues' words in thanking the Commission. I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Vargas prior to this morning's meeting. Amazing work to be able to come forth and on your own time to share your love and vision and commitment to this great city. On behalf of my residents in my district, we want to thank you as well. You know, early on, there was talk of getting rid of Watts in my district, and Watts was a constituency that I so look forward to serve. And through the leadership of Mr. Jerry Gaines, the appointed commissioner by then Councilwoman Janice Hahn, we mobilized Watts and came forward and made it clear that we wanted Watts to remain in the Great 15th. So thank you for taking that into consideration. The Watts community is also grateful that they remained in the 15th. Question I had for the city attorney, if I may. There's been talk and through the media and through remarks from the community that the public comment period or the public comments were not taken into consideration during these maps, during the drafts of the maps. Can you how do we gauge that? Or obviously everything was documented, everything was televised, but in light of talks of litigation, can you just address that for us, please?
I can briefly, although the commission staff and the commission leadership may want to provide additional information. There were extensive public hearings, and all the documentation regarding the public comments, the public comment cards, the written testimony received by the commission are all on file currently with the commission staff, and then will be transferred over to the CLA's office. So all of that is public available. The commission reviewed and was charged with reviewing all public comment and testimony, including publicly submitted maps, and exercised their policy discretion in terms of weighing the different elements of the public comment and the other policy decisions they had before them in presenting their map. So they had the charge of considering it and also weighing it against all the other factors that they have.
John Wickham with CLA, if I could just clarify. All of the commission's documentation will be going to the city clerk's office. The CLA's office will be receiving copies of that material, but it will all be on the official public record of the clerk's office.
Very good. Thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Englander.
I just want to say that I'm appalled. This is 900 pages. It's not even printed on double-sided. I can't even hold this thing up. Can we put it on disc next year? Save some trees. Like, really? This is... And now, not knowing that we were going to have one on our desk, my staff printed an entire copy up for me as well. So we have two. 1,800 pages. We'll keep those on display in the office in case somebody wants to come and review the documents in full. I want to thank everybody, in all seriousness. I understand this is a very smooth process. There were no bumps in the road at all. The meetings were swift and quick, and you were home early. I wish that were the case, but this was a very well debated and vetted process. I think the opportunity for people to weigh in was tremendous. I was just looking through a lot of the outreach efforts and all the flyers and all the different languages and all the council offices and various interest groups that sent out blast emails and notifications to alert the public to make those public comments, to get involved. And there was a lot of public participation, I think more so than we've ever seen, quite frankly, in the history of this process. I don't know that we could have done it more transparently, or you could have done it more transparently than what was done, and I appreciate that. I heard a lot of positive feedback, contrary to what's been covered in some of the media stories, but from a lot of the public, and particularly those in my district, that have said that they welcome the opportunity, the fact that it was brought citywide through every community, and they had the opportunity to participate and show up and listen, watch it on television, that it was all televised, and they heard what was going on. They've seen the documents, everything was posted to the web. I think you did a tremendous job. But I want to thank all those commissioners for leading this effort and the staff that put up with all of it, because it is incredibly difficult from what I've seen. I did not want, and I said early on in the process, I would hope that this wasn't politicized. It was a little bit by some folks, and that's unfortunate, but I think at the end of the day, everybody's done a terrific job in trying to take everything into consideration from all the different constituencies and communities, and that's not an easy thing to do. And so I truly appreciate all the hard work, the leadership of the commission, each and every commissioner, and the staff that has done a terrific job. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Englander. Again, I want to thank the commission, and I made a commitment to the commission to do my very best to protect the integrity of your work product. You've done a fine job. We appreciate the work that's done, so I would hope that the members of this council would respect the work that you have done. I will do my very best to see that occurs. Also, I just want to say, you know, life has changed. Redistricting is about change. So boundaries will be adjusted. That is the reality. That is our mandate. And again, we'll do our very best. We'll work closely with the staff. So members, what I'm going to recommend at this time is that the CLA, the city attorney, and anyone else that we need should review this document. Again, I'm requesting that all members, if you, as you review this, if you want to make some suggested changes, that you get those changes to the CLA by March 8th, because I want to give the CLA time to analyze any recommendations by the city council. And with that said, I think we should hold this in committee until we act, which I project will be on March 16th. We will again be having 3 additional hearings this week. The first one will be in the San Pedro area. The second one will be at the Van Nuys City Hall. And then the last one for this week will be this Wednesday in these council chambers. Members, are there any more questions or concerns? Is there any more business before this committee? Isn't somebody going to say yes? No? No. Or we're just shaking our head? Well, if that's the case, then this committee's adjourned.